I tell you what's interesting is like when I see stuff like when I see that one shot of that lady who was like, she was actually the victim of the gas leak explosion. And then they're trying to say, oh, this is Putin has blood on his hands. This is a poor woman. Well, of course they use a woman. They don't use a guy. They don't use, they don't say, oh, look at these dead people that are out in the streets. If it bleeds, it leads. Well, if it bleeds, it leads, and it's a woman, that's a much different emotional impact than a guy, because we want to protect women, especially men. Men definitely want to protect women. We have an innate protector instinct to protect, to keep, I can read you the big head babies thing again, if you really want me to, but we have an innate male protector dynamic, part of our internal wiring, our evolutionary firmware. So when we hear a woman cry, it's different than when a woman hears a man cry, or when we see a poor old guy who is the victim of war versus a poor old woman who is the victim of war. And we go with that because that imagery is more powerful. It creates a more powerful emotional impact than it is if there's a guy there, because that guy should have been able to take care of his own shit, right? If you got a guy who's like, say, 22 years old and he's yoked and he's built and stuff and he's dead there in the streets and he just wasn't up to the task, that is not as significant an emotional impact as if you have this poor woman who's, in a soup line somewhere, or these disaffected refugees being forced out by, the invading force. That makes a more emotional impact. It's okay for men to die in movies, but it's not okay for women or children or dogs to die in a movie, right? That's horrible. But we can die in droves, man. We can fall like wheat. But because it's a different impact. And I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong. I'm just saying that that's where our heads are at. Because we have a protector instinct for women. But again, the idea that we're going to create an emotional impact as a result of curating those images, it doesn't even matter if they get found out today. If CNN gets their asses nailed to the wall because they used a picture from 2018 to try to stoke emotional responses in people will defend that. They'll be like, well, it's sort of true anyways, right? They don't care because they don't want the feeling of actually having been used. And it's to the point right now where like major media outlets, they already know that. They're already factoring that in. They don't care. Got the clicks. That's all that matters. So, well, you used hey, I can imagine. Can you imagine this happening? The conversation. Hey, you guys, in the selecting the picture. Right? You guys used a woman from 2018 in a gas leak explosion. Don't you feel bad about that? Nope. They're already on 3 more stories ahead from beyond where they made that decision, because they already factor that in. Even if they get called on it and they have to produce a retraction, there'll be less people who viewed the retraction than there are the people who actually watched the original image. And that's all that matters. Now, think of that on a meta scale. Think of that on, it works for Instagram. It works for your dating profile. It works for your hustle. It works for what that impression is all that really matters. Like what was it? It's the Captain Marvel effect is what it is. Like when Captain Marvel came out, the idea was that they knew that it was going to be a dog of a movie, but they put it out anyways because it had this narrative that they wanted to foist out there. And so what Disney/Marvel did was they bought out the ratings for Rotten Tomatoes to make it seem like it was a really great movie, right? But everybody said, "Oh, this is bullshit," but it didn't matter. Already had taken, but it's got an 86 rating or 96 rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Didn't matter because the initial impact had already been made. And then you'll get the follow-up. And this is also, by the way, part of the marketing is if you didn't like Captain Marvel or those kinds of movies, whatever the all-female cast of Ghostbusters, if you didn't like our pro-female strong independent woman movie and it's getting panned, it's because you're a misogynist. And they already plan ahead for that narrative to come up after the movie's been out for like 3 or 4 weeks. Like how that works? It's now part of the marketing plan because they already know that it's here today and gone tomorrow. They always say, what is it? The internet never forgets. It doesn't. But you know what? People have very, very short attention spans today. And all that matters is that emotional impact because we live in an emotional world. And the only time we're going to wake up to that is when the tanks are rolling down your main street, when you're actually bullets are whizzing by your head. And then suddenly it won't be about emotion and it won't be that. It'll be about the reality on the ground. And at some point, we're going to have to wake up to that.